It's Scott on Security. I'm Scott Beck, CEO of Beck Tech, a cybersecurity and IT services firm, and co-star on the Amazon Prime documentary Cybercrime. Passwords. We've been using them for years, and security people have been warning about some of the most common passwords, but the new list for 2019 was out, and there has been some changes. Some progress has been made. The number one password that's most compromised and used out in the world is no longer password. It dropped to number 4. What's the number one password? Actually, it's the same as it's been for a little while. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've also now got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 is being used, and 111, 111. Rounding out the top 10, we've got things like Let Me In, Dragon, Ice Cream, I Love You, and depending on the complexity of the password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, or 9. So these are still the most common passwords that are out there, and guess what? The hackers know it, and they will try running these searches and using these passwords to try to get into accounts. And they also know a couple other things about your passwords. Look, folks, most people are going to use the same email address for their username, often a work email address, and then they're going to use the same password or a variation of the password that they use at work. Maybe they might change get really creative. Let's take the A and turn it into an @ sign. No one will guess that. Or maybe we'll turn the E into a 3. Well, the bad guys know that. And I've talked about it before. They'll do the dictionary brute force hack attack. But I know I've talked on it, but I'm bringing it back up again because it is still kind of concerning that password is still in the top 10 for most used passwords. And we started helping a company recently, and we did a dark web scan, and they had some users using password as the password. And we're not talking like home use. We're talking like corporate accounts. Like, this could be bad news. So it's still happening. So that's why we got to still keep bringing it up. I remember back in my radio days, my ex-boss had said, look, the reason we talk about the weather so often, or we give the call letter so often, is you've got to mention things at least 7 times before it registers and people start to catch on and hear it. So I don't know. I don't think I've hit 7 yet, but I know this is like my second or third time bringing it up, and this listing of the most popular passwords kind of got it going. So Scott, what do you do? What do we do for passwords? It's a great question. I'm glad I asked that. We need to be moving away from passwords and start using passphrases. Now, what do I mean? All right, well, let's take an example. Let's say you've got 2 brothers and a sister. Maybe you could use your pets, whatever the case is. Or maybe you might talk about an activity. So what do I mean? So maybe instead of a password, you might use something like a passphrase and say, I have 2 brothers and a sister. And now you start taking the first letter of the word, maybe the number, throw in the symbol. You start building out a phrase. I like to take long runs on the beach. I enjoy whatever that is. Write out the phrase and start taking letters and things from that phrase to build the password. But it's a phrase that you're going to know, right? It's stuff that you do. So you're going to know what it is, so it'll make it a little bit easier for you to remember. And if you're doing proper email or password hygiene, you're going to have a password manager program. So you don't have to remember all of it, right? The software can do it. But let's just say you haven't gotten that far. It's like, Scott, slow it down. I've been using password, and you're telling me I shouldn't be doing it. So let's do step 1. Let's get you using at least a passphrase, which will make things harder so that you can't fall victim to these dictionary attacks. We're seeing more and more stuff as it gets released on the dark web of people's email addressings and this password stuffing happening. More and more Office 365 mailboxes are getting hit because the bad guys are able to take a look at an email address, do a search online, figure out where your email is being hosted, and they go, okay, so Scott's email address is this. He's on Office 365. We'll just use Scott at the name of the company, and we'll start stuffing passwords, and we're going to keep trying and trying. And if your IT folks or your IT department hasn't taken steps to stop that kind of a brute force attack from happening, the bad guys are getting in. I like to say it just never happens, but it's not true, because we get the phone call saying, oh my God, my email's been hacked and it's been sending out 70,000 spam emails an hour, and it's been shut down, and now I can't send any email and I can't do any business. What are we going to do? I mean, we deal with that every day. So, well, maybe not every day. Maybe that's a slight over-exaggeration, but it's happening a lot, so we know it's happening. Why we keep talking about it. And then when these lists come out from the security companies saying, yep, we compiled a list of the most compromised passwords that have been found out in the wild, and out in the wild means out on the internet, and we still see password being in the top 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, still number 1, seeing different variations of these numbers, it means that the message isn't getting through yet. So, as I said, maybe this is number 2 or 3 times that I've talked about passwords. I'll space it out, but passwords is probably going to come back up again in a future episode. Listen, I really appreciate you coming along with me for the ride. I'm hoping you're getting some value from getting these tips and tricks as we pass them along and keep you up to date on the latest events that are happening. I really enjoy it when people send in some questions. So if you've got an IT-related question, or I had someone ask, how did I get into computers? And that's why I mentioned about radio a while back, and how technology impacted that industry and how I ended up here. Please feel free. Send in the questions. You've got my information here on social media. Message me direct. I'd be happy to answer those questions. If it's something of a more private nature that you wouldn't want out in the public world, that's okay. I can respond to you through back to you directly as well. But if it's a topic that you're interested in, it's probably a good chance there's other people out on the internet that are also interested and could get some great value from having your question answered. So please feel free. Send those questions in to me, and comments and feedback. If there's stuff that you'd like to be seeing me do, or stuff you'd like to see me not doing, like, well, if you said, Scott, if you could stop talking with your hands, that's not going to happen. Even when I worked in radio, as my wife used to say, had the perfect face for radio, and there's no one else in the room, I still talk with my hands, It's going to be 18 degrees and sunny here on the way. Rod Stewart on CKCW. Yeah, I can, the hands would still get going. It's a habit that created way back. So that's not going to change. Okay, I'm starting to move along. Passwords. Move it to passphrase. Make yourself more secure with that one simple little change. Hey, thanks a lot for joining me on the journey. Stay safe out there.